Thank you. As Ken said, my name is Blake Miller, Director of Product Marketing for the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Today we're going to walk through our digital advertising 2020 survey that we just completed. A little bit about myself. I grew up here in Austin, went to Westlake, went to college down the road in Baylor. I promise I'm over the fact that we beat Texas twice and they got into the tournament and we didn't. I'll watch the women's now as we take that to the next level. So really, before we dive in, it is a Salesforce presentation. So I must remind you that we are a publicly traded company. Please make any investment or purchase decisions based on technology that is currently available. So we've gone through this. We're in the fourth industrial revolution, the intelligence revolution. And this is really a challenge because we have interactive cars and chatbots and all of this technology that's coming at us. And it's creating a huge challenge for the marketer as well because we have a lot more data than we've ever had. We had talked about little data, big data, and soon coming the panel on medium data. But as we bring all of that together, it really is how can we leverage that? How can we generate scale? How can we make it actionable and connect with our empowered customers? And as we go through, think about this. There are going to be 10 devices per person in just 2 years. That's a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of data being thrown off. And I think one of the big challenges for marketers is what's good data, what's actionable, and what's just kind of noise. So sorting through all of that. And then 7 billion digital assistants. I need some help with the Alexa Home that we got for Christmas. I'm working on the weather. That's about as far as we've gotten in our conversations in the morning. My daughters are getting a lot more information and a use out of the Alexa, but I've stuck to simple questions. But that's going to change the way as marketers we think and we interact. So how do we meet those expectations of the empowered consumers? It really comes in 3 key areas that we need to think about how we interact and engage with our customers and how we really do it at scale. Number 1, knowing everything about our customer. Again, we have to begin to connect that data and bring all of those data sources together. Engaging with those customers across the entire customer lifecycle, from that first interaction through that customer service, and as we turn them into an advocate for our brand and thinking about every touch point. It was great, the conversations earlier today about how we map the customer journey. And it's also the most exciting thing, I think, from talking about customer journeys for the last several years at Salesforce is the idea that we're starting to align our teams and our organizations and our goals around the customer. That's extremely important as an organization, and we'll see that some of the data that's really bringing that out as well as we dive into the report. And then personalizing every experience. And it really is interesting when we talk about personalizing every experience, we use automation and artificial intelligence to create that scale, but it really is about creating the templates to allow the data to do the work. So creating different templates and different schemas. So as the marketer, I can set those rules and let that, the program and the data work for me to really treat that customer as an individual is that expectation that we have. And we dive into that. And artificial intelligence is playing a role in that. But we also need to take and look at the data that we do have. I think it was great about the small data or little data platform because I think we look at data and there's this quest for all of this, I need more analytics, I need more. And a lot of marketers need to take that first step and start utilizing the data that we do have. Utilize the data. If I know geography, I know that I'm going to have a different offer in Texas versus California. Take that first step and start to segment and use that little data before thinking about all the things that you don't have. Let's take a look at what we do have and let's build on that. And we can drive that personalization. So as we dive into the results of our 2020 digital advertising survey that we did, the interesting thing in that really, when we look at here, so the light blue bar in the middle, if we look at it, that is outside agencies. So the orange bar is people on their last fiscal, so this is customers on their own efforts. And then the dark blue bar is kind of an inside-outside hybrid model. So if we look at that, agencies are slightly ahead, but we have seen the data sources go from 5.4 data sources to 6.2. So we have about a 20% increase in the amount of data, or different data sources that advertisers are pulling together. This is a survey of 900 of your advertising peers that were included. This is a survey done by Salesforce research that we released in January. So as we look at that, it really is interesting that the data that we're starting to pull in, and so this first category is a CRM-based data. So that's the things like email address, phone number, other CRM data, and pulling that in, online data, all the information that we have from first party, second party, or third party, and then really beginning to pull in that demographic data and use that to target our advertising. So seeing that increasing in the number of sources. Then we dive into customer relationship, our CRM data. And we look at this, I think it's, people have been using email address and we're seeing a slight increase in phone numbers. We've been using that for a couple of years because that's how we stitch together the customer. But the interesting thing is the biggest jump in the next 2 years, the anticipated growth is a 23% increase in CRM data that goes beyond kind of those basic connective tissue and those basic identifiers. So postal address, customer service information, transactions, and bringing that together. So you really see that that's the next kind of opportunity for growth and engagement is all of that CRM data that we have that we can begin to leverage in smarter advertising. And the interesting thing about that is how many people have started to connect their digital with their direct mail? Has anybody started doing that yet? Returning to that? It's becoming really interesting because the direct mail can become very targeted now. It almost becomes like personalized advertising that you can get down to that individual segment of one through direct mail because you have that information. So it really is interesting to see that kind of the rebirth, so to speak, of direct mail for advertising. And the key takeaway from this point is 91% of advertisers have adopted or plan to adopt a DMP in the next year. I think a lot of people who have been working with that data management platform are not surprised by this at all, and it's just really seeing the adoption of that. When we think about engagement, this is a stat that references the most, I think, exciting for anybody who's been in marketing and advertising for a while. I think I've been on both sides of the advertising side and then also on the email marketing side. And when I look at it, I was talking earlier with somebody about attribution. And we always kind of looked and said, okay, whoever was paying for the attribution won. So if it was the advertising guys paying for the attribution, they won. If it was the marketing guys paying for the attribution, they won. So whoever's budget it was coming out of was setting the rules, and they usually won that attribution battle. But the great thing that we see is really that convergence, that true convergence now of advertising and marketing technology. Because then it can become centered on the consumer. It becomes that one-to-one customer journey that we look at. So we look at here, the top line is 62%. Currently do have a connected, shared brand or creative team. So that they're working together on their creative assets. Down to 58% are sharing budgets, and then 57% have the email campaign and the purchasing and meeting are sitting together, or sitting on the same team. So how many people have their marketing and advertising sharing the same team, same resources? Are you still kind of siloed? It's about 50%. That's good. So it really allows you to think about the customer and think about all those touch points across the customer journey. This should surprise nobody, and 60% of digital advertising will go to Google and Facebook. I don't think anybody is surprised by that number. And then video continues to grow and play an increasing role. And we look at this, 65% of companies are going to increase their spending on video over last year, and about 8% total around the world are going to increase that by over 25% increase in video spending in this next year. So again, things are evolving, but we can do better targeting and get a richer experience. And then personalizing those experiences. Again, this goes back to the really leveraging that CRM data, increasing demographic data, but we have that, we can leverage that, we just have to be smarter about how we do it. And then 26% increase in leveraging that data. So we see a 30% growth in the next 2 years about using that third-party data to really improve those customer experiences and get smarter about our personalization. And then really, this is the one that I think is interesting from a standpoint of how artificial intelligence and machine learning are going to play into this. And smart TVs currently use about 44%. I think the interesting thing about smart TVs, in a previous life, I worked in cable advertising. And it was about 10 to 12 years ago, a lot of Motorola and the other set-top box solutions were telling you that you would be able to advertise down to the cable box. That was 15 years ago. I still don't know if it actually happens or can be done. But it was interesting that it was that visionary, but yet it was still relying on this technology. And they were like, you'd be able to order pizza for your remote control. So it's interesting how all of that technology that was seen on the television actually moved to smart television and moved to app because it became a much easier experience, much more user, right? Consumers are going to go to whoever provides that best user experience. So that while the idea of watching a TV commercial and then saying, hey, I want to order pizza right now, was a great idea, the app and that technology made it a whole lot easier than kind of facilitating through the set-top box. So it's just really interesting. And I think probably from the hype that wearables was getting 2 or 3 years ago, I think everybody would have thought that wearables would have been head of the voice assistants and the Siris and the Google Homes and the Amazon Alexas, with the wearable devices being overtaken by the digital assistants. But there's still a ton of growth. There's still a lot of opportunity there. And then we'll see there's some cool things that retail is doing with augmented reality in store to see kind of what that looks like with mirrors and kind of other digital experiences that are really cool as well. So it's really interesting to see where that growth is going to come. And as marketers think about creating those new digital experiences to really engage and have different ways of interacting with our customers. So if you want to download the full report, it is at salesforce.com/research, along with all of the other research that Salesforce does across different industries, advertising, marketing, the state of the connected customer. So we have a lot of great data there, but this full report with lots of great insights. It's always good to be able to benchmark yourself against other marketing organizations, against other advertising organizations, as well as finding out what's working and what's not working so you can go in and when you have those conversations around the customer journey and how we should shape our organization and change to really be customer-centric and customer-focused, you've got a lot of great data to back that up to make those changes and recommendations to your organization. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for your time. I know we've got, John, a few announcements before heading off to activities, so appreciate everybody's time and attention very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.